Donald Trump expectedly won the majority of votes in the South Carolina Republican primary this past weekend. 20 points separated Nikki Haley from the frontrunner, a larger gap than she saw in New Hampshire, but she is planning to stay in the race until at least Super Tuesday next month. More than a third of total delegates will be up for grabs in the 15 states holding the Republican primary next Tuesday, including a number of deep red states where Trump is expected to sweep the vote. CBS News chief Washington correspondent Major Garrett joins me now. Always a pleasure, Major. Okay, Nikki Haley's biggest donor, the Koch brothers, they are halting her campaign, saying they see no viable path. So, is this over?
It's over in the sense that former President Trump is on a clear and unobstructed path to claiming enough delegates to be the presumptive nominee by mid-March. But that's not because the Koch brothers and Americans for Prosperity are dropping their support of Nikki Haley, at least financially. Nikki Haley got support from them in late November, far too late to make a huge on-the-ground difference in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. But it was enough to at least identify those voters in the non-Trump Republican Party or Republican-adjacent part who were willing to participate to send a kind of protest vote on Nikki Haley's behalf. The absence of Americans for Prosperity going forward will give us a very clear indication of just how large, John, that anti-Trump vote within Republican primaries and caucuses actually is. And that could be significant as this campaign moves forward.
Help me understand that non-Trump vote, Major, because in the old days, you'd have people vote for another candidate, and then they'd all come home to the party nominee. And obviously, we are very much no longer in the old days. But give us a sense of where those voters go. What have we really learned about the share of the vote that Haley's getting? Are these never, no way, no how Trump voters? How should we think about them?
Well, they're not Republicans. Trump wins self-identified Republicans handily. He's done that in Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina, as well as Nevada. And he will do that on Super Tuesday. But Republicans who feel estranged from the Republican Party, as now identified with and by former President Trump, are not insignificant. And then there are those who are Republican inclined or who were Biden supporters in 2020, but are moving maybe a little bit toward the Republican Party, at least ideologically, philosophically, but are not supportive of the former president, are looking for some place to put that vote. And what's interesting is the point you just raised, John. Typically, if you keep losing, your vote share declines. Nikki Haley's, though not nearly enough to win, does remain resilient. And it is a signal to the Trump inner circle. You are going to have problems in the general election in the suburbs and the exurbs of America, precisely where you lost in 2020 to Joe Biden. It was those losses in the suburbs and the exurbs that elected President Biden over then President Trump. So the Haley factor, though not enough to stop former President Trump from securing the nomination, could be problematic or maybe significantly problematic in a general election.
I want to ask you a Trump anthropology question, as I often do in these chats, because you've covered him for so long, you've written books about him. And this matters because if he's going to be asking to be president again, his habits of mind are worth investigating. Usually after a victory, a candidate praises the locals who endorsed him. After Trump won in South Carolina, he referred to his supporter Lindsey Graham as, quote, a little bit further to the left than some of the people on this stage. Graham was then loudly booed. When Trump won in New Hampshire, he embarrassed Senator Tim Scott by pointing out that Scott had abandoned Haley, who had appointed him to be senator. Why belittle the people who've endorsed you and are standing on the stage with you?
So one quick note, in Iowa after the caucuses, Trump was precisely as you described the old style of being, magnanimous to all the local officials. But New Hampshire and South Carolina, what was different? Well, in Iowa, that was his first victory. Then he gets one in New Hampshire, now in South Carolina. Now he knows it's all in the bag, or nearly so. So he's feeling more like himself. And what is the default position for former President Trump in a strictly political context? Remind all those around you that he is the dominant figure in the party. And if you have any hesitation about backing him, absolutely, no matter what, he will hold you to account, both privately and, when he so chooses, ridicule you in public, to constantly remind you of the central truth of the modern Republican Party. It is a reflection of Trump and his, let us say, high regard for himself, his egoism within politics, to constantly not only be the center of attention, but radiate in every direction. If you're not with me, I'm against you, and I will punish you, and you will suffer politically as a result.
And that leads me to the question about the Republican National Committee. There's a draft resolution being circulated that would keep the committee for paying the legal fees for former President Trump. And another resolution says the RNC must stay neutral until a candidate wins enough delegates to win the nomination. What do you make of those proposals? Are they small and not going to go anywhere, or do they represent something worth paying attention to?
Well, the neutrality one will be solved by mid-March because Trump will be the presumptive nominee and the Republican National Committee can say, well, OK, the delegates are there, the votes have been cast, don't worry about it. But the other one about what will the Republican National Committee's institutional attitude be about Trump's legal expenses and any obligation it may feel to pay or not pay them. Right now it doesn't. But the former president is installing loyalists at the top of the Republican National Committee. That will happen later this week. And if the Republican National Committee starts taking donor money and giving it to Trump to pay legal expenses, every dollar that goes in that direction, if the Republican National Committee decides to do that, will be a dollar that cannot go to a House candidate, that cannot go to a Senate candidate, that cannot go to amplify the message of anyone running in the Republican ticket in 2024. That could be a significant question for the Republican National Committee to evaluate. And it goes back to where we were just a second ago. Do you want to be loyal to the former president, or do you want to be loyal broadly to your party, even those who sometimes criticize the former president?
Major Garrett, super helpful as always. Thank you so much, Major.